How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector, and directly behind me is the post office where I drop off my envelopes and all my eBay orders. And the attitude of the person behind the counter was to be expected. As you know, I've been constantly calling out the United States Post Office for their incompetence because they're all anti-Trumpers. Here in North Carolina, according to WSOC, they've lost 75,000 packages, just like mine, just like yours. She treated the itinerary that I'm holding here in my hand like I had germs or COVID and put her stapler on top of it and pulled it away from her. But that's just the beginning. So here is that post office right here in Pineville, North Carolina, right around the block from where I live. She didn't want to answer any of my questions or anything like that. Gave me no real answers and tried to put it on my shoulders. Boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about when I get home. So let's go and do that because it's really hot outside. Well, here I am back at home. Forgive the change of attire. It was a steamer outside. So, I mean, after maybe like a 5 or 10 minute walk, my God, already like the heat was starting to get to me. But here I am at home. And we're going to get into this. But before we get into the issues with the post office, let me get into this stuff with UPS. Because, as you know, and I talked about this already, I ordered for these J-case fuses. So they ended up being delivered in Bumblefuck, North Carolina somewhere. I gave up on it. The seller, thank God, sent me a whole new case of these things, and I did go ahead and replace some of those burnt out fuses with these. And I actually bought relays from another seller who I bought from previously, and of course those relays got swapped out. And now my air conditioner works and a few other things in my car work now, so thank God. It's been hot down here. If you own a car, you know the struggle. Also, out of nowhere, my tamper-proof labels arrived. After 30 days of ordering these things, I've already put them to use because I had orders I had to get out today. Thus, why I ended up at the post office today. But thanks to good old UPS forced me to create an account with them, and without doxing myself, I mean, I really don't care. Listen, I don't care. Whatever. I'm an LLC, so my information's public anyway. They sent me not one, not two, not three, but 4 PIN numbers to create a My Choice account, so that this way I can track these packages, that I can put my home address in there. So no matter what I have on eBay, if I have an eBay seller that sends me something via UPS, it's going to go through my Choice account. So now I'm going to get all sorts of garbage emails. I'm sure they're going to sell my personal information to third parties to try to get me to buy a dildo-shaped ice cream maker. I don't know. But it's so ridiculous how they do stuff like this. I can't believe it. But, that's the least of my worries. And by the way, my other fuse kits just showed up after waiting weeks and weeks. Here they are. Let's open this up on camera. I mean, this is ridiculous. So here's the fuse kit I ordered. Boom. Oh, of course, they're made in China. What else is new? Made in China. Yeah. I really got to pay more attention to things. These aren't even the right fuses. You're fucking kidding me, right? Uh-oh. Are these the right fuses? Because I know there are different kinds. No, these are the right ones. Okay, I take that back. I apologize. I take that back. Yeah, they are the right ones. I actually like this little case. But anyway, I'm kind of going off topic here. So, at least they're here. But anyway, all joking aside, I've been going to battle for one of my customers now for several days. I normally don't do this. I called the customer because if you have an eBay account like I do, it does provide the shipping information for your customer, just in case things like this do happen. And this is the very first time I've ever had to call one of my customers, because I wanted them to hear it from me because I take it personally. So anyway, I went to the post office, which you saw in the beginning of this video, and of course I got a lousy attitude from the clerk that was there. You don't have to guess what kind of person was sitting behind the desk there, or behind the counter. We'll get to that in a little bit. So I spoke to the customer personally. I'm glad that we're on the same page. You know, this is a loyal customer of mine who buys and sells on eBay. And that's what prompted me to call this individual, because I take it very personally when it comes to people's money. And I'm glad that we have a consensus between this person and myself. And I did speak to the person, like I said, over the phone for a few minutes. And, you know, I've got their blessings to talk about all this stuff, minus personal information, account numbers, etc. But this was what I showed you, ladies and gentlemen, recently, the MRC, which is the missing mail complaint that I filed with the post office. It's right there in black and white. And I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of my customers' things disappearing. That's the confirmation email right there, which of course my customer has. And I decided I'm going over there. And I want to know what the hell is going on. And the attitude that I got from this woman was cavalier and nonchalant. Now, of course, with my customers' orders, you know, there are several different types of cards in this order. I believe this was an order of 12, from parallels to refractors to, I believe, 1 or 2 autos. There was some pretty decent stuff in this order. And I did speak to the customer, and if I have to refund this person's money, I'm not going to have a choice. I'm going to have to. But what sucks is the fact that this lying sack of, don't say it, Walt, lied to my face at that post office, claiming that the package was scanned and left the post office, which is a huge lie. And I have the evidence of that. Because when I go through all of this, I mean, you guys have seen this in my previous videos. I'm not going to go through every single page. Here, estimated delivery, July 22nd to Saturday, July 26th. That's way, way, way longer than the expected date. And I mailed this out in June, at the end of June, which I have right here in front of me. So what I did is I made a color copy of a screenshot of the very day where I packed that order. That's it right there. Anybody can go to my channel. This is why I do this, to make sure I can cover my ass. And here is that very screen cap from my playlist. eBay sales orders update June 27, 2025. It's right there. So, here's where we get to the spicy stuff. So I go with all of this. I show a screen cap of my own channel. And obviously with my eBay reputation, even though you got a couple jackasses that try to feedback extort me or try to claim their cards weren't delivered and they really were, you know, my reputation remains secure. And I'm glad that this customer and myself are on the same page with all of this. Once again, thank you. You know who you are. But when I went to the post office and I challenged this clerk and I said, listen, not for nothing, I have proof and evidence that this card was brought here. I printed it out. It shows it was printed out. And she tried to claim that, oh, it left the post office. I'm like, no, it did not. The pre-delivery message was sent to the post office. It was clearly dropped off at the post office, and it hasn't moved out of that post office. And she gave me an attitude. Okay. She grabbed a stapler similar to this one out from behind the countertop, her desk. I had this sitting on the countertop like that, and she's like, sir, can you please put that down? And I'm like, why? I tried to hand it to her. She refused to take it. So I put it down on the desk. She takes a stapler, puts it on the papers, on the pile of paperwork, and drags it to her like I have a disease. Okay. So what did I do in retaliation? And again, the customer has screen captures of this. I filed a complaint against the clerk for rude and unprofessional behavior. So I'm going to read this for you. So the postal clerk treated me like I was a leper when I showed her paperwork about my lost package under MCR, redacted, of course, a tracking number, and the complaint number is redacted for the privacy of the customer, of course. She literally took her stapler and dragged my paperwork out of my hand as if I were diseased. I am a 9/11 World Trade Center recovery worker, and I find her behavior highly offensive. Here is a link to my YouTube video, post-processing, prior to me bringing the box in question to the 28226 station. She falsely claimed that it was scanned and left said station, when that is simply untrue. The station house has been reported tossing mail in a dumpster, and recently WSOC reported 75,000 packages are still not shipped throughout Charlotte and other areas here. That's a fact. You can go watch that on my playlist. Date of incident today, time of incident or best guess 3 o'clock, Post Office Carmel Road, location 8326 Pineville Matthews Road, which is right around the corner here, etc., etc. And confirmation that the email was sent. Apparently, according to the automated response, I'll get a response in 1 to 3 days. But I'm not going to take I got to be careful what I say here on YouTube, because I know people will mince my words and twist my words around or label me as a racist. You know how this works, folks. But here is the confirmation email, with the exception of the complaint number redacted, which is this right here. So I'm really going to bat for this customer, but I'm not going to let some fat, overweight, you know what, try to get over on me. The simple fact of the matter is, I actually spoke to my postal carrier that delivers mail here, because our regular guy is across the pond on vacation, apparently in Russia. And basically what's been happening here with the post office, I can try to sum this up in a few words, that they're understaffed, overworked, underpaid. Their own employees who have been getting through the vetting process, some of them have been stealing mail. Their equipment is antiquated. They have no air conditioning inside their trucks, at least the older ones that they drive, or if not most of them. Nobody wants to work for the post office today, because you have these who pronoun, spoiled brats who are millennials, who are like, 20-somethings, whatever, and they don't want to do physical labor. They don't want to work. They want everything handed to them. That's why you see them bitching, moaning, whining, and complaining about food stamps and Medicare. Oh, not Medicare, excuse me, Medicaid. And all these free government programs now that Great Pumpkin is taking all of that back, that they're all having a shit fit here on the internet. I used to be on food stamps. Pardon me. If it wasn't for the sports card gig, I would probably still be on it. You know why? You don't want to be under those programs, because once the government has a stranglehold on you, believe me, they could do to you whatever they want. Trust me, I know. Believe me what I'm telling you. Even people in the 9/11 community know this, as a matter of fact. I hate using the C word. But the simple fact of the matter is that the government controlled everything with us. The payouts, how you had to file. You had to prove not only were you there, but you had to prove that you were sick because you were there. You needed witnesses, which I had to call up my union hall back in New York and find someone that saw me. And thankfully, my reputation, despite and regardless what people have tried to do here on the internet, remains secure, that I was able to dig up a witness and they signed the paperwork for me and blah, blah, blah. The government fucking sucks. All right. I don't care if Trump is in there. I don't care if Biden is in there. I don't care if George Bush Sr. or Jr. was in there. I don't care if Obama was in there. The government, in any which way, shape, or form, if they are attached to you in any way and you're attached to them and you're suckling their teeth, believe me what I'm telling you, you don't want that. Believe me. When I actually moved to this property, I'm currently paying $250 less than I was when I moved up to North Charlotte. As a result, when I came back down here, I was making too much money. The Mecklenburg County sent me a notice. I had to pay back, I think it was $3,500. And I'm like, you can have it. I just started my LLC around that time. So I'm like, I put the food stamp card in there, put a personal check in there, mailed it off, paid whatever I owed. And now I've been doing this. And I rather do this, because I could be sitting around all day like some of these government leeches that you see on YouTube, whining, bitching, moaning, and complaining. Unless you're truly, disabled, like with myself, I had to fight in court many a time, to prove that I got affected by PTSD and issues with the lungs and insomnia and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. You don't want that. Plain and simple. You don't want it. And unless you're truly hurt and truly disabled, and or if you're a senior citizen, you don't want to be part of the system. Believe me when I tell you, it sucks. But with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the worst case of post office fuckery I've ever had to deal with. And forgive the foul language, but I'm really, really trying to help out my customers here. And I'm very, very persistent when I want to be. It took more than, I want to say at least 30 days or more for these to come. And it forced me to order 1,000 of these because I have to watch out for my customers' interests and my best interest. In particular, my best interest, because of the card swapping and the bullshit that goes on in the hobby. But this is by far the most egregious case I've had yet. These people did not scan that box. It's sitting in there somewhere, allegedly. The claim is still valid. There's been no changes to the claim. And I obviously went there personally. And the woman back there, of course, was one of these. Gave me a fucking attitude and treated me like I had a disease, like I had HIV or herpes or something like that, and took her stapler and put it on top of the goddamn paperwork and then slid it towards her like I had germs. The fucking nerve. Just because they're federalized doesn't make them special. Even if it's ICE, if it's a police officer, if it's a federal worker or a postal worker or whatever have you, I don't give a shit. You do not walk on water, and you have no right to treat people like they're fucking animals and criminals like what was done to me at that post office today. So I am going to continue to go to bat for this customer. I still can't believe UPS made me do this. Like, this is pathetic. Four different PIN numbers to force me to create a goddamn UPS Choice account just so that I can track my packages, just so they can send me spam emails. And of course, if I cancel that, I'm not going to be able to track UPS packages to my current home address. They'll send it wherever the fuck they want. Isn't it sad how things are these days? Everything is a fucking fight. Everything's a wrestling match. I mean, obviously, I love a good challenge, but this is ridiculous anymore. It really is. And for me to have to go out there, I'm sure, she had photos of kids and stuff up by her counter there. I'm sure she works hard. I'm sure she's trying to take care of her kids. But don't give me that it, what, who pronoun attitude that you're holier than thou just because you have that. That's the reason why, which I failed to mention in the beginning of this video, I pulled out my union card and my dues stamps card in case she tried to pull a stunt like that. And immediately, as soon as she saw that, that's what changed the entire conversation, why her attitude fell apart, because you're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. I've been down this road throughout my entire life where I've had people fuck with me or try to get over on me. All right? With age comes wisdom and experience. And I challenged them, and they didn't like it. I want my goddamn stuff delivered to my customers, period. And I hope that these videos circulate around so that my fellow eBayers that are out there or small business owners, you don't have to tolerate this shit. You really don't. You don't need to tolerate it. You don't have to tolerate it. And to the customer in question, I'm going to continue to fight as per our discussion over the phone. And if we can't reach a resolution with the post office, I already know what I have to do. It's a real shame, unfortunately, but that's how it has to be. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's not cool, it's not right, and it's not fair to have to constantly battle with incompetence. I understand that they are overworked, underpaid, and understaffed, but we as tax-paying Americans, and you as a paying customer, it's my responsibility, to make sure that you get your stuff. And for me to have to do what I did today, I think it's over the top, man. I hate fighting. I don't like fighting. I don't like arguing. I can't stand arguing with people. But, unfortunately, we live in a world, and believe me, I have quite a few cases of that going on right now. Oh, no, not me. It's you. Oh, no, not me. It's you. Narcissism. I produce the receipts. What do you got? But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying my best for my customers, and I'm not going to give up. So let's see what happens with this complaint. Let's see what happens if they actually dig this thing up. At least when it comes to my customer, he or she was telling me that They waited over a month and a half for something to transpire with his or hers order. So when it came to another transaction, it's fucked up. This whole system needs to be revamped. And not for nothing, young people need to learn how to work. See, with certain things and certain aspects of my income, the reason why I get the income that I do, I worked for it. And now I'm getting out of the system what I put in, regardless of how many people out there don't like that. It's a fact. What matters is what's in the court system, not the court of public opinion. You people know who I'm talking to. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to tolerate this stuff. Stand up against these people, man. It's freaking ridiculous. I'm not saying go take to the streets and riot like who pronoun freaks do. What I'm saying is that gather your evidence, get your receipts, get the photos, get all that kind of stuff, and just, put it in front of their face and say, oh no, it's not me, it's you. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.